it is the
This
first
meeting
time
is being recorded.
This meeting's being recorded. I've tied a couple of miniature shows. I've tied at the BFFI, but never bumbled my way through a Zoom call. So bear with me. The hands may shake to start with, but let's get into it. Gonna do, I think, 7 flies.
7? Okay.
Don't worry, the Villa match starts at 8, so we'll be done by then. The first 2 are a Damsel variation. Then we've got a couple of Nymphs, a dry, and a couple of Caddis patterns. So let me get into it with this. Let's change this video. Right, has that gone? Trust that to do that now.
That's the same thing that was on
Yeah.
Steve's.
Yeah, we've got the same camera, or well, same brand, so you have to use utility to get it on.
That's what I've just put on as well. I might have to plug it in and plug it back out again. One sec. Let's turn it off.
You're in no rush, mate.
No, we're fine. We got it working before, didn't we?
Yeah. It's all these people on, that's what it is.
Right, that's on. Canon autoplay. EOS. It should be working. It sounds like it did. There we go.
Perfect.
Right, so the first one, like I say, is a Damsel variation. So we'll get this hook into there. This hook is actually not the one that I used to use for it. I used to use a size 10 short shank from Elite Flies, and I've not been able to find them anymore. So this one it's very similar, but it's the Fario short shank, but a size 8. It's almost exactly the same size and gape as the size 10 that I used to use. So I'm quite happy with that. We're first going to start with a bit of marabou for the tail as well. So let's get that ready. And we're going to use a classic waxed thread. The bead is a 3.2 speckled tungsten from Kindale. So we'll just get that tied in there. I'm just going to wind back up because I'm going to have the marabou starting from just behind the bead and tie it in. Olive marabou, just your standard. Take 2 pinches of that. And I'm just going to trim off the waist. That's that done. Tie this in. So I'm going to tie it, as you see, just behind the bead. Just gives the fly a bit of bulk on the body. Tie that all the way down and then under, just so that doesn't wrap round on a cast. And then I'm going to pinch that off like so. So happy with that. Next thing is a little bit of blue flash into the tail. This is Vineyard's Crystal Flash in blue. It doesn't need to be too flashy. The body's got more flash in it than the tail. So I'm just going to tie one in my side to excuse me for this. Just 2 light ties in. And then I'm going to wind it this side down the body. Is everyone still with me?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can flip it over and tie it in your side. You don't need to use 2 bit. You can use 1 bit one side, 1 bit the other. I just like to do it this way. Saves a bit of time. And then cut that off. There. Body for this is Olive Ecstasy and Blue Straggle. So you can see that's going to be part of the body, and I'm mixing it in with this. So what I like to do is just with the olive egg, just pick off the fluff from the end so it leaves the thread. there, which is about done with that. And then I match it up with the straggle, and I tie it in with the straggle underneath. So the straggle is on the bottom of the egg. So just a couple of turns to get that in, and then wrap that all the way back down. Doesn't need to be neat because this is going to cover everything. So what I do now, twist and turns all the way, but each time folding that back so that blue flash comes through. Probably 4 or 5 turns will get it down to the bead. So you can see that straggle's actually poking through the egg. There we go. Tighten that off. 1, 2 over the back, a couple over the front, and another one over the back. Snip that off. Make sure you're not cutting the thread. Pull all those threads back. Tie it in. A little bit of wax on the thread just to tie it in with. And whip finish. If I can get it behind that. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Snip that off. And
You'd
then
like this fly. You'd like this fly.
when that's wet, that all
Really?
dips
Colorful?
back like so.
Oh, really?
It's great movement in the water.
Looks
So
like
all
it's
those
leopard.
fibers, when that's going through the water, it pulses.
That's
It's
one.
gonna look like a fish,
Yeah.
you know, in the water.
The blue, it's pretty. It's really
And that
nice.
is the first fly. Any questions? Nope, we're all good. Silence is golden.
They're all on mute, apart from somebody I could hear in the background.
That's all right. We don't mind a bit of voice chatter. Saves me from talking all the time.
If anybody's got any questions, unmute yourself and ask Chris, and then he'll mute yourself back up.
You tie it in different colours, Chris?
Yeah, so I do it with black ecstasy with a red straggle in it. There's so many different
Dennis the
colours.
Menace.
But black and red works really well, really
Yeah.
well. I've actually got a pink egg with, white egg with pink through it as well.
Okay.
It's really good. But I always tie them on a tungsten head because it really gives it some proper dip when you stop the retrieve.
You ever tried white and spearmint?
I haven't actually, but I do know someone that ties that, and it is a good fly. I do tie, yeah. Spearmint is a very good colour with that. So that is that one done. So on to the next variation of a damsel, which is probably more of what you know to be a damsel pattern. Same hook again, we're going to go with.
What is it?
This is the Fario short shank in barbless, but it's a size 8.
Oh, right.
Which sounds big, but it's the same size as the size 10 that I used to use.
Okay.
So again, we're gonna tie dumbbells on this one. So I'm just putting a little layer of thread on there.
Because I found with that ecstasy and the worm stuff, you've got to have a serious weight to get it down because it bloody floats, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's the 3.2 tungsten on there.
Yeah.
Where am I? On.
I was like coming aboard, that's why I asked these questions.
Right, so with these, we've got some blue beads going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just a figure of 8 to get these on. Excuse the thumbs in the way. 2, 3, 4, 5. Get that lined up. Make sure that is secured, and bed of thread all the way down to where we're again going to use olive marabou. This one won't be as heavy as the previous, but the body on this is going to be dubbing. So you don't need as much weight to get it down. Just going to chop off the ends of that. And again, I'm going to tie it back up and tie it in sort of 3/4 down the shank. Tie that up to where the bend starts. Under again. And then pinch off the excess on the back. And to make this a blue flash, we have got, I don't even know where I got this from, but as you can see, that's pretty blue and pretty flashy. And with this, I am going to tie one in my side and then one in your side, because this is quite thick to wrap over. So I'm just going to be happy with that my side. And snip that. You will see this your side in 1 second. So I'm just going to turn that round so you can see that's in there. And if I can find the end of me, where's that gone? There it is. It's like when you don't clip the end of a sellotape and it'll fold it over and it gets lost in itself.
It hides, doesn't it?
Right, so.
When you get a situation like that, Chris,
Yeah.
I find I put one of them little things on they used to use in banks for counting.
Oh, yeah.
And that usually does the trick.
Good idea, that.
And finds it for you. Oh, I'd just like to share my wealth of knowledge.
Right, I'm just going to catch this in my side now. And let's get that level. This poor cat's trying to get in now and I'm not letting her in. Let's fold it over a little bit there. Get that in. Right, as you can see, that's just folded back over itself, but when that's wet, that will sit back. There we go. We'll sort that in a minute. Right. So we need a little bit of a rib on this one, and we're using, where am I? Vivus in the blue. Let's get a little bit of thread off. Chop that out. And tie this in. And then just clip off that waist. There's that. Right. The dubbing I'm using for this is from Vicuna. So it's one of their green packs. And I'm just going to use a medium olive. And I'm going to put this onto the thread. Let's just move that back up. Start off relatively thin and then taper it back up. So a little bit more and we should be absolutely fine. Right, so that going up the body. And then we're going to rib that with that blue Vivus just to give it an extra bit of blue in the body. Tie that in. Trim that off. And then the final bit on this fly is a hackle, partridge hackle. say it's the final bit. There's one more step after this, which I'm just going to tie in there. This is a green olive hackle, and let's just clip that there. Hackle pliers, and come round a couple of times, just folding that back.
The good players they are.
Yeah, they're always a winner. And tie that hackle in. Trim the excess, and then we can fold all those excess fibres back. We can trim them off anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got a bit of a hackle there, and then finish off with another bit of olive dubbing just to cover it back up. And over the eyes there, a little bit of thread, and a little bit of wax on the thread, and tie off. Three. 1, 2, 3. And then just trim the bits off that you don't want, and everything goes on the floor. I think I've actually tied that in the wrong way round. So, but you can imagine that would normally sit back like
If
that.
you want to correct it, Chris, rub the blades, close blades of your scissors.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so it bends it round the other way. Hey, you're full of tricks tonight.
Yeah, I hope you're enjoying it.
I love it. How much did it cost?
Free.
Yeah,
Well,
we're getting straight with it.
now.
So that's the prettier side. You can have that one for now. Doesn't always go 100% right, but the fish won't mind.
That style of damsel's caught quite a few fish.
The damsel any time of year will catch fish, as most of you guys know. Still waters. I mean, I like to fish a damsel in the height of summer on the still waters, so they will always catch a fish. Everyone happy? Everyone still with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Third fly is a. If Stephen Shorrock's still here, this is a woolly bugger. It's not a streamer. It's one that I use.
Doesn't matter how big it is, it's still a streamer, Chris.
I thought he might still poke up somewhere. I've actually tied this one for fly fishing magazine at the BFFI. So this one is a bit of black marabou to start with. Yeah, I'll use this on a Euronymphing setup, and I like just a plinketing behind rocks in faster water, right in riffles. It's a size 10 standard jig hook from Kindale, and I think that's a 5.2 tungsten black mat from Fulling Mill. This doesn't need much marabou, so it's really only one pinch. I'm just going to chop the waste off, get some black thread. That normally helps first. Tie down.
You wet it and roll it, the marabou.
I tend, well, I roll it at the tips. I don't tend to wet it. I don't really feel the need a lot of the time because it gives it a little bit of extra body. So we've got that in. Again, we're on classic waxed, but this is a black thread. I'm going to get that tied in. I'm going to go down to the bend of the hook and back under. And this is only a short little tail on this, just about that. And you can put like a UV thread in it. You don't need to, but say you can use crystal flash, UV thread, mirage tinsel, things like that. And then we tie in a bit of grizzle hackle. If I can get it out of the packet, there we go. So with the grizzle hackle, just pinch off sort of a couple of mil, which will expose the body of the feather. And I'm going to tie that in just like so. So that's in. Now the body on this I've got is here, which I don't know if you'll be able to see the sparkle in that. Yeah, you can, I think. So that's mosaic hare's ear, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, hare's ear UV mosaic from Kindale. Can you see the reds and the blues?
Yes,
and the,
yeah.
yeah. Really, really, really easy to dub on. So I'm going to get that onto the thread. Could be quite bulky with this because that 5mm bead is really going to get it down anyway. I don't know if you lot can hear my cat. Right. Get that noodle up to the top. I'm just going to dub that all the way up to behind the back of the bead. And then take your hackle. Wind it all the way up. Right behind the bead. Catch that in. Couple at the front, couple at the back. Snip off that waist. Just move those feathers back a touch. And then just to add sort of a little hot spot on it, I'm going to put some, you see that orange seal's fur just around the collar.
Is that from
Is it
Richard
real
as
seal's
well?
fur?
Pardon?
Is that from Richard as well?
Yeah, that's also one of those.
It's real seal's fur, is it?
No, substitute.
Okay, fine.
So dub that on. Get that up. And just fold those feathers back. Bit of wax on the thread. And we're going to tie that off. Nice, fun, quick to tie, and will catch fish. There we go.
Big hooks, that.
That is a size 10 standard jig
Right, thank you.
from Tyndale. And what you can do is just brush those fibres for that seal through the body. Just gives a little bit more colour going down. And there you have it.
Nice.
Righty.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions?
Fire away if you have.
So they all stayed quiet.
You all stay quiet, don't they? Right, so let's just tidy up a little bit. Yeah, that one was there, that one was there. Right. Next fly is, this is why I've got glasses, a size 18. And it's one that I just sort of came up with not that long ago. It's a glass bead Quill Nymph. A bit of a mouthful. So I've got a size 18 wide gape jig hook. This I'd use as a dropper, really, on a Euro rig. So let's get these out. So the bead that I'm first putting on is a tungsten drop head bead, which is a 3mm in black nickel from Fulling Mill. And I'm just going to dab a little bit of super glue. I know you can't see this, so I apologise, but you will in 1 second. A little bit of super glue on that. And then I'm going to add, which you will see in a second, the glass bead. So the glass beads I've just got off eBay. And these are in red. Now, let's put it in here and you'll be able to see what I mean. Tighten that up because we've got a bigger hook. There we go. So everyone see that little glass bead there at the end, at the back?
Yeah.
So that's just going to add a little hotspot. That's all it is. It's whether it does anything, I don't know. It was just a fun thing that I came up with to tie, and I have caught fish on it, so something works. So again, we're going to go in with black classic wax thread from Semperfly. I'm just going to put a little bump behind that just to lock it in a bit. We will lock it in more later in the fly. Down to the bend of the hook. Excuse me. Tie that off. And then I've got some Coq de Leon Pardo. Fancy that, it's from Kindale, which is that. I've just dropped my feather somewhere. Oh no, there it is. So I'm just going to take off a few fibres. And then we'll tie that in the tail. So you don't want the tail too long on this. So I'm just going to measure that up, which I'm quite happy with that. And then tie her in. It's a bit long, so I'm going to pull that up a little bit. There we go. And cut off your excess. Build up a little bit of a taper on the body, not too much. Oh, that went a bit shaky there. And I'm going to tie in a golden olive Polish quill. Just get the black side down and tie this in. Now, you're probably only going to use sort of 3 maximum 4 turns on this quill, so you can put it straight back in the pack and reuse it. Now we're going to tie this in. I'm going to use the rotation device just to help me get touching turns up there. So that's 3. That's about it. That's all we need, because we're going to put a little bit of dubbing behind that bead. Just get that off. Right, so let's cut that off because she doesn't want to come out. Right, let's go back in with that. So retie the quill back in. Back up to the bead. 1, 2, 3. And hackle pliers. 1, 2, 3. There's that. Hopefully this one doesn't split. There we go. So once that's tied in, just chop off the excess.
Tried Steve Hankins' Wild Turkey Biots?
Pardon?
Have you tried Steve Hankins' Wild Turkey Biots?
No, I'm trying to think where I've got fully milled turkey bites. I've not really used anyone else's, to be fair.
Steve's a quality.
All right. Well, look at those.
Magpie Materials. Put that in your.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Body on this, we're just going to give it a bit of Thin Man resin. I'm just going to apply this with a dubbing needle. I've got a little bit too much on that, but we can work that around. And give that a blast off. That should be hard because there was only a little bit on it, so I'm happy with that. Then we're going to sort of give it, I suppose, say breathers, whatever you want to call it, a little bit of, this is PhD, Peacock Curl Dubbing. So very, very sparely with this because it is only a small fly. And we're going to go behind the bead and then just a little bit over the bead as well, just in between the bead and the drop head. So that's tied that in. Then I'm going to tie it all off. In between the two. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pull that off tight. And then with my thumb and forefinger, I'll just wet them a little bit. I'm going to peel all that dubbing down so it exposes the top of the red bead and the tungsten. I'm just going to angle it down a little bit, and I'm just going to use a bit of black UV just on top. Just like so. Give that a blast off. And that is the red bead quill jig nymph. Is there. Any questions, guys? Still very quiet. Is there anyone here? Have I bored everyone?
They're all listening, but they're all on mute.
No, they're being very good.
I like the look of that.
Yeah, it's just a tiny fly for the dropper. Works well. And yeah, it's a little bit of colour in with the PhD. And obviously that red bead just gives it a bit of pop. Time are we on? 1/2 past, right. Okay, so that's fly number 4 done. Next one we're going to do is kind of a sedge clink, I like to call it. And we're tying it on a size 12 clink hammer hook. So let's just get that off. So in the vise is that. And for this, I'm going to use classic wax in a tan. So to start with, I'm just going to lay a bed of thread all the way down. And then we're going to tie a tippet ring in. So let's get that back up. Chop off the waist. So what I've done, I've got some 6 pound fluoro, and I've just, if you can see that, popped a tippet ring and doubled the line back over. And I'm going to want that just sort of there on the bend of the hook. So if I hold that down there, catch that in and tie it down. What I like to do when doing this, I can use a thread splitter just to hold that down, which enables me to get right round. So that tippet ring is right at the base of that bend, perfect for when you're attaching a little nymph. All the way up the top, and then we're just going to clip off the rest of that fluoro. That's that. The rib of the fly, this again is Vivus, but it's a brown sparkle, I guess. I've lost the name of it, so I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's definitely from Vivus. So we're going to tie that in, and we're just going to take that all the way down. And then we're going to clip off that. This can be used still water, rivers. I was using this at the weekend, and I was quite happily using it with a 2.5mm bead under it. So it definitely floats. We've then got some, which is quite buoyant, X-Select blend dubbing, which is hare and deer. So we're going to get that involved now.
Chris, is that
Yes.
the thread you're using? Is it the Vivus Iridescent, that model there?
I think you are about bang on. That is the one. Well done, mate.
All right, anyone wants to know what it is?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. We're all clubbing together tonight. All right, so we're just going to wind this body up. The thing I like about this is how spiky it is.
What do you say it's mixed with?
So this is hare and deer ear.
Oh, cool. Right, yeah.
And it is really spiky. Now I'm just going to just tie that in, just in case I lose the thread, but we shouldn't do with this. So that's in. I'm then going to wrap up the rib, just to give it some segments. And then we're going to tie that in. And snip off. Now, with this, you can use like a poly yarn to give you a cider post. What I do is I use a sort of an underwing, and it's fulling mill ultra dry yarn. So I'm going to use this as an underwing, and then I'm going to use deer hair or as the actual wing itself. I'm just going to cut a section of this off. And I'm going to just double it over like so. And tie that in there, making sure that's level for me. There we go. Give that a few wraps, make sure that's in happily. And then I've lost my scissors, now I've found them. And then I'm going to come in and just chop that under there. Then we've got this that we've used. Now, I'm not going to level these up. I'm just going to cut them as they are. With this, there's not much under fur in them, so I'm quite happy that I don't really need to brush it out. And they're quite well aligned anyway, as you guys can see that. So I'm just going to chop off some of the ends. So we're going to nice neat finish there. I'm going to come in, one loose wrap, and then tighten it all back up. 8 wraps around there. And then I'm going to cut all these little bits off. It does make a bit of a mess. But it'll be tidied up in a second. So pull that back again. A few more wraps around the front of the fly. And then I'm going to add just a touch more of the dubbing. Around the front, there we go.
You can see why it floats.
Oh yeah, it doesn't go down this one. You can trim off these back bits now. There we go. Bit of wax on the thread and just tie off. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Pull down on that. And there we have fly number 5, which will float forever.
What's the name of it again, Chris?
I don't really know, mate. It's like a Klink Sedge. There's no real name for it, I don't think, unless anyone knows of one. So that's that. So you can see the tippet ring just on the back of it there. So attach your nymph to that. I say you can use it river, still water, and that should do the job for you. Excuse me. Let's have a sip of drink. Right. So last 2 patterns are going to be Peeping Caddis patterns. These are going to be tied on a size 12 standard jig hook with a 4mm tungsten slotted bead. So this is the Peeping Caddis that most people will know. The last fly I'm going to tie is a fun tie, actually. It's one that a friend in New Zealand ties. So I'll keep you in suspense for that one at the moment. If I can open this bag, we'll get there. There we go. Right. So we have our bead, we have our hook. Let's get this in the vise. So it's a which bead is it? It's a black bead, just a standard black slotted bead in 4mm. Get that in. And I'm going to use classic thread in olive. I'm just going to get that bead locked down for me. So that's not going to go anywhere. Is anyone a Villa fan?
No.
We got any Villa fans? No?
They're all on mute, so
Oh, no, yeah. I'm just seeing if anyone wants to say up the Villa, they can do. We've got to pull back a big deficit this evening.
Do they play rugby?
Pardon? What?
I said, do they play rugby?
Yes, sometimes.
have you just woken up, Pete?
Yeah.
Right, so we've got that thread just towards the back of the hook, and we're going to tie in the peeping of the peeping caddis, which is just a piece of green wool. But what I'm going to do is just burn the tip of it, so it gives it that look there. You can make that out. So that's going to be the head of the peeping caddis. Just going to make sure that's not too hot, so I don't want to burn my fingers. Okay. So I'm going to tie that in. So there's that bit in. Snip off that. Great waste of wave. Then for the legs, we're going to use Vineyard Natural Partridge. Pick out a nice feather, which I think I've got. It's a bit too small. That's okay. No, don't like that one either. That one's too big. There we go. Happy with that one. So with this, I'm just going to take off the downy bits towards the stem, just to leave that so I can grab that with my hackle pliers. And with the tip, I'm just going to fold back to leave sort of that. So it leaves like a V at the top. Now I'm going to tie that V just where the green wool is. So that's in there. So I'm going to clip that waist piece off without cutting threads. There's that. And get my hack pliers. You want to move your thread all the way up to the end at this moment, just so it doesn't get in the way. Because then we're going to have to go around the bend of this hook and back on itself. We'll keep folding these feathers over. So just a couple of turns. And then use that thread all the way back down. And we're going to catch this stem in for that partridge. So a couple over there. There we go. So that's now caught in. Snip off the extra stem. And what you can do now, just wet your fingers a little bit, pull those fibres back, and we're just going to go back down towards the bend of the hook again, just to angle those feathers more in, as you can see there. Now, the body for this one is from F&F, and it's Chewing Gum Caddis. So I'm just going to snip off a little bit. Excuse me. Again, with these, it's a gel core, so just pick off until you show the thread, like so. So you can see there's a thread. So I'm just going to tie that in. All that means is you've not got a big bulk of body where you actually tie the material in. Okay, so then we're just going to wrap this up. So just behind bead, lock that in. And there we have the Chewing Gum Caddis.
Ian Villa, give me some of that to try at Ragley Hall.
The chewing gum.
Yeah, it's cracking
Good
stuff,
stuff.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is for natural bodies like that. Because if you imagine a caddis is just a peeping caddis is made up of sand and little bits of stone, and this really does show it well.
That's exactly the same as I tie my caddis on the jig.
Oh, is it? Yeah, great pattern. Always works. You tie it with a little bit of wool, do you?
Yeah, exactly the same as you've done it. I don't know whose pattern it was. I saw it somewhere, copied it.
Yeah, that's what most flies are like that. Really, you can have little variations, but yeah, it's a tried and tested pattern that still works. So we keep using it. So that is number 6, is it? We've got one more to do. So the last one is another caddis variation, but it's a little bit different. So I'm going to use the same hook and same bead. So I'm just going to get that out. In fact, that's the wrong hooks. Where have I put those out? So again, we're size 12 standard jig. Sorry, it's a size 12 wide gape jig, this one. And it is going to be the 4mm Black Bead, both from Kindale. So let's just get that on the hook. Offer that up to the vise. Right, so we've got brown thread, brown classic wax. I'm just going to put a layer of thread, tying that in. So just secure that bead. There we go. And all the way down. Snip off that waist. Right. So I'm going to go just sort of a couple of millimetre over the bend of that hook. Now, this is another use for glass beads. So what I've done, you can see that I've actually tied 3 glass beads on some green flexi floss. So I've tied it on the end, I've threaded them on, and then just sort of granny knotted the end. So this is the peeping bit of our peeping caddis. So I'm going to get that tied in. Excuse my thumbs, because this flexi floss can be a bit of a nuisance. So I've got one over it. I'm just going to pull that up to where I'm happy, which is about there. And then I'm going to secure it. So that there is secured. Then this flexi floss, I'm just going to pull it taut and just sort of come up the body a bit just to secure that in. That's going nowhere, and then snip off that. So this is going to add some real movement as well. You can see that jiggling about. So we get back down to here. Now, for the rib, I'm going to tie in a rib for this. And I'm using brown flexi. Just cut that off, tie this in. Make sure that's all nice and secure. Pull that tight and bring it all the way back down to where the green floxy starts. Chop off that waste. And then we've got 2 lots of dubbing in this one. I've got the spiky deer and hare ear right at the back. This is going to give it a real spiky look, which we want to kind of be the legs. So we put a lump of this on the back. And then I go in with some scraggy moss brown for the remainder of the body.
Send the things.
So I'll just get that on as a noodle. So that should be enough for us. So we're just going to come up the hook with that mossy brown colour till we get to the head, the bead, and then we've got the rib that we're going to pull it round that first lot, which is that deer and hare's ear, and we're going to come straight into that moss. So there's that in, up to the bead, catch it in. Make sure that's definitely in, because flexi-floss can go anywhere when you cut it. And then a bit of wax on the thread. One, two, three. And, oh, well, that's 3. So that one's add 3 for now, because that thread broke. But you get the idea. And then with the peeping bit, we're just going to brush that back out.
For the legs.
For the legs, yeah. And that is the Glass Bead Peeping Caddis, which concludes tonight's 7 flies.
Excellent.
So thank you guys very much for watching.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you,
Great
guys.
display.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Really appreciate being asked.
Has anybody got any questions for Chris?
Yeah, Chris, which caddis do you prefer?
I've not, so I've fished that normal peeping caddis a lot more. I only started tying this sort of a month or so ago, so I've not really used it on the rivers, but I'm sure with that glass bead it's going to work. But I will, I'll let you know in the WhatsApp group. I'll let you know as soon as I catch fish on it. Definitely. It might take me a year, but we'll try and get one.
You'll be fishing
You
that next
fly,
week.
it's always
with
confidence,
Kaisus.
isn't it?
Go on, sorry.
You'll be
It's always
fishing that
confidence
next week
with
at
a new
Kaisus.
fly. You never until you put them on and try it.
It is confidence. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of us, we go probably too in depth on our flies when we think, oh, we don't like that. The fish don't really care. We just want to make them pretty and pretty looking. But this is why we tie them. So we enjoy it.
Part and parcel of it, isn't it?
It is. That is exactly it, mate. Yeah. But any other questions?
They're still on mute.
Not a question, Chris, but a great display. Thank you.
Which one? Sorry, I didn't quite catch the end there.
I said it was a great display of tying.
Oh,
thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's the first time, as I said earlier, it's the first time I've done one of these, so it's nice to bumble my way through.
Cracking
I came
job,
in
Chris.
late, but it's been well done.
Cheers, guys. Time for a big glass of wine now.
Well,
Thanks, Chris. It was a
Thank
enjoy
you,
your wine.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look like you're sweating a bit.